Hi and welcome to my video today. So this is the first of my back to basics watercolours, and this is all about using primary colours to make your colour wheel. So you're going to learn about your particular colour palette, you're going to get used to how they interact with each other, you're going to create two colour wheels with me. One is a warm colour wheel, the second one a cool, and then I'll also give you some hints and tips along the way. So in today's Back to Basics series, we're going to be looking at colour mixing. The primary colours, very straightforward, and we're going to be creating two colour wheels. So to start off, I just want to show you my palette. I have my warm colours set there in my palette, which is the cadmium yellow, cadmium red and ultramarine blue. They're going to form the basis of my first colour wheel, the warm colour wheel. And then the second colour wheel I'm going to help you with today is my cool colour wheel, lemon yellow, alizarin crimson, and of course this much cooler blue, cerulean blue, which is one of my favourites. So let's get started. First of all, remembering to have 2 pots of water, one that you keep clean and one that you use to clean your brush. So the clean water we're going to use to create our colour mixes to make sure that everything is kept nice and clean and not turn muddy on our palette. So you can see here I've popped down the cadmium yellow on its own, and that's where we're going to start. So I have simply traced around a tape and created a circle with 12 sections, just like a clock face. So pretty simple. Just have a little ruler to give you a hand with that, and also an ordinary HB pencil just to draw that out, and then we're going to be filling in those spaces. So the cadmium yellow I'm going to pop at the top here. So it's a nice warm yellow, and you just want to use a nice round brush with a point. I'm using my number 4 Da Vinci Casaneo brush, and you use the tip of the brush just to fill in all those little corners. Okay, so that's the first colour down. Now as we come around the colour wheel, our next colour is red. So we're working our way towards red, and in between the red there are going to be 3 other colours. So what we're going to do is clean the brush, wipe it on the paper towel, and add a tiny bit of the cadmium red. And this particular mix is closer to the yellow, so it's a yellow orange. It'll all make sense as we work our way through. I also have a spare piece of paper with me, just to try out, just as a tester to try out before I go ahead on my colour wheel, but I'm pretty happy with this colour. So this one is our yellow orange. Okay, now we're coming closer to the red. And so the next section, we just simply add more red to that mix. If you have kind of run out of the mix, if you like, just mix up some more, clean your brush, wipe it on the paper towel, add a bit more of the yellow, clean your brush again. It's getting into these good habits as you start out, and then it'll come automatically to you. Okay, so this is our orange. So this is a little bit darker than the first orange, and that goes in the next section to the right of the previous one. So we're working our way around this clock face. Okay, I'm just going to add a touch of clean water just to make it easier to come off my brush. So you don't want the mix to be too dry or thick. You want it to paint on the surface nice and easily. You want to be able to see some of the white of the paper through your paint. If you can't see any white through the paint, you're probably mixing a very thick consistency with not enough water. So just add a touch of water. Okay, so that's halfway between yellow and red. So we've got the next section is closer to the red again, so we add a touch more of the red to the mix. And I'm going to test this one out because that looks pretty close to what I had before. It is, it's quite similar to what I had before. So I'm going to go with a bit more of that red. Now let's have a look. That's better. So I'm going to paint that in. I'm going to add a touch more water. Don't want it to be too dry. Okay, and if it's easier for you, turn the piece of paper round. Make it easier for you to fill in that space. Also, another tip here is make sure the previous colour has dried on your colour wheel before you paint up to that line, because if it's wet and the two colours join, they'll want to blend together and it will spoil your colour wheel. You'll end up with all kinds of colour mixes happening, and we want to use this as a reference, so it's a really good idea to get it right so that you can use it in future. Now we've got to this stage. We've got our orange in the middle yet there. This is our red orange. The next colour along is red on its own. So I'm going to start in a new section down here on my palette, just with some clean water, and I'm simply going to mix cadmium red all on its own and then paint that. That's pretty dry. Because I'm in a heated space, it's drying nice and quickly, so I can safely paint up to that section. And you can see these colours are changing gradually as you go around the circle, and that is the aim. So obviously there's three primary colours. We've got the red, the yellow and the blue. So after we've mixed this red section and painted the red section, we're going to then be working our way towards the blue. So things will start changing again. So there we have the red section. And if I bring my colour palette across again, clean off the brush. And remember, we're working on the warm colours, so my warm blue is the ultramarine blue. I'm just going to pop some more red down. Need to make sure I've got enough red on my palette before I start adding the blue. So just get a little puddle of red going, clean brush, dab off the excess water, and then you just want a touch of that blue paint, just a little bit at a time. And it'll change the colour quite quickly. So this has changed the colour quite dramatically. Tiny touch of blue. And this colour wheel, because it's my warm colours, it doesn't make very nice purples. And the reason for that is that cadmium red has a lot of yellow tones in it. I've just got something on my paper there, I'll just get rid of that. So the yellow and the red within the cadmium red mixes with the blue, and of course what happens is you get kind of brown muted colours rather than nice bright purples. So what you'll find when you come to do the cool colour palette down here on this colour wheel, you'll get some lovely purples because you've got the crimson rather than the cadmium red, and crimson has a little bit of blue in it, so you'll get some nice purple mixes. And this is why we're doing the colour wheels. It's to get you used to the colours that each of your primaries can create together. So this is why it's so important. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next section. I've somehow got some got some colour, some paint on my paper there. It's getting enthusiastic obviously, so I'm just dabbing it off with a bit of paper towel. Okay, so let's go again. I must have it on my finger somewhere because I've just got some more. Can't find where I've got it from, possibly my top, but never mind. Let's carry on anyway. So we've got this colour going on in the palette. Let's get some more of our red because it's disappearing quickly. It is quite warm in this room. We've got the heating on. So let's just mix up that colour that I just had with a bit of that blue. There we go. So this is pretty much the colour I started with a second ago. It's quite brown. So I'm going to add more blue to this one. And actually that's probably a touch too much. I've gone a little bit too far, then I need to pull it back a little bit. That in actual fact is really what I want in the, let's see, the next section. I'm going to add a touch more red to pull it back a bit. And a touch more blue. There we go. Okay, so now we're getting a really muted colour, and this is because of the warm colours mixing together. So you'll soon get used to the warm palette will create really nice oranges and very nice greens as well for landscapes, but not very nice purples as a secondary colour. You can look to make your purples using your cool colour palette. So there we have the next colour on the colour wheel, and very quickly moving along, adding more of the blue into that mix. Touch more. There we go. That's better. So this is the next kind of shade we want. Much more blue. I'm going to start turning my paper to make it a little bit easier for me. So remember, get right into the corner. I'm going to add a touch more blue again. There we go. So this is actually a really lovely kind of grey tone, beautiful for shadows. So this is made up of a lot of the blue and just a small amount of the red, because the further around, obviously the percentages of each colour is changing. So that's a really nice kind of shadow colour that you might want to remember. Great for clouds and things like that. Good for possibly the sea or a stormy sky. And then I'm going to really quickly just clean my palette off. Let's just get some water on those colours. Bit of paper towel, rub away that paint, and we're going to start afresh. So we've worked our way gradually round from the yellow to the red to next is the blue. Yes, so we want the blue next. So of course you just want to have a little bit of blue on your palette, some water. Look how lovely that ultramarine blue is. Use a lot of ultramarine in my paintings. The beautiful thing about ultramarine blue is that it actually has really heavy pigment particles in it, and you get this sort of splitting of the paint, especially if you mix it with another colour, and it's beautiful. The heavy particles sink into the texture of the paper, and you get this beautiful effect. It's really lovely. One of my favourite colours to use. So that's our blue. Now, of course, we're moving closer to the yellow. So we're going to clean brush, touch of yellow, but this is closer to the blue than it is the yellow, so it needs to be just a small amount of yellow with a larger amount of blue. So I'm going to go back into the blue again, and this is the kind of colour we want, a sort of a dark blue green. So touch more of the blue. Let's get a little stronger. So if you want to just have a stronger colour, you want to add more pigment. So more of the paint off your palette and less water in the mix, and you will get a stronger colour. And of course, the stronger, the thicker the paint, the more opaque it becomes as well. And so this whole exercise is going to help you to learn how to control the paint, and also going to help you how, you know, the different effects you can get when you're using different amounts of water to the percentage of pigment. So it may seem childish to do a colour wheel, but honestly, this is the perfect way to start. If you're a complete beginner, this is absolutely what I recommend doing to begin with. Get to know your own personal paint palette. Everybody's is different. Unless you've gone out and you've bought exactly the same primaries that I have, your colour wheel will look different. So cleaning off my brush. And again, we're working our way towards the yellow. So I'm going to just mix up some more of that dark green, because I'm losing paint all the time. So starting with my blue. Now this time there's much more yellow than before, so we get this lovely green, really pretty green. And that's this section here. So filling that in. This sort of exercise is brilliant as well, because it helps you to control the paint. You know, you're getting used to the brushes that you have, and the sort of pressure you put on the brush will have the mark will change. You know, if you're just doing a very light pressure, you can get very fine marks. If you're pressing down with your brush, you're going to get a bigger mark. And so, you know, you just bear that in mind as you're filling out these small spaces. So the final colour then is, you've all guessed it, clean off my brush and more yellow. So this one is a yellow green. Which is lovely too. It's sort of like an apple green, I suppose. Tiny bit of water in there as well. It was a little bit thick. And then just filling out that final section. It's a bit like a green gold actually. Green gold is a colour that I have on my palette. My extended palette, if you like. So I do have some secondary colours that I like to use, and green gold is one of them. So this is very close to that. And there we have it. So that is our warm colour palette completed, and I'm going to move on straight away and do the cool colour wheel exactly the same, and I'll speed up the video so it's not too boring for you. Okay, so I continued on with the cool colour wheel, and it's looking fab. I did an extra coat on a couple of the colours up here because they were very pale, so I just painted the same colours over the top just to strengthen them a little bit on the warm colour wheel. So now we have the two colour wheels in place. So this top one was made up of the cadmium yellow, the cadmium red and the ultramarine blue, so I've labelled those to remind myself. And then the cool colour wheel was made up of lemon yellow, alizarin crimson and cerulean blue. So those are the 6 primaries that I always recommend for my students, and they work really well. They make nice colours together, they mix really great, and we can make pretty much any colour we need to during our classes, so I always recommend those. Obviously you might have different colours, so you know, just have a go at this exercise and see what colours you can create. Once you've done this, let me show you this other colour wheel I created. So this is my warm colour wheel, but I've switched the blue to the cerulean blue, and you can see actually how different they are. It makes some nice kind of muted tones there, and slightly different greens as well. And similarly on the back, I switched my cool colour wheel. The blue on there now is the ultramarine blue, so these two blues were switched around, and as you can see on here you get some really pretty purples. So that's interesting because on our 2 colour wheels, the purples, certainly on the warm colour wheel, the purple doesn't really exist. This is supposed to be our purple here, and it's clearly not. We've got grey and brown tones. And even on the cool colour wheel, there is some purple in that. It's not quite as mucky or muddy as the warm, but there's still not really pretty purples. However, if you mix crimson and ultramarine blue, you can get these lovely purples, great for painting flowers and things like that. So I wanted to show you this to say, you know, you can mix your colours in different ways. You don't just have to stick with a warm colour palette and a cool colour palette. If you can't create the colours that you need for your particular painting, then switch them around. And the best thing to do to find out exactly what colours every one of your primaries can create, then do something like this. So this is a colour mixing chart that I created for my subscribers. I do an artist newsletter once a month, and I created this for them. And basically I have all of my colours along the top and again along the side, and each corresponding square have the mix of those 2 colours in them. So for example, here I have cadmium red, and on the side I've mixed, in this particular square, it's quinacridone gold, so you get this lovely orange. Down here you can see that this lovely green is created by mixing the green gold together with, oh actually that one's green gold, so that is green gold on its own. But the next one below it is cerulean blue mixed with the green gold, and it just gives you this lovely chart that you can refer to really quickly and see which greens you want to mix, or which oranges or purples you want to mix. You can see we get a lovely purple with a permanent rose and cerulean blue. The ultramarine blue and the permanent rose also make a nice purple. So I use this all the time when I'm teaching, and also when I'm creating my own paintings. So it might be something that you want to think about doing too. So I'll put a link at the end of this video with step-by-step instructions on how to create this for yourself with your own personal palette. And if you want to sign up to my artist newsletter, if you go to my website, rebeccajarman.com, you can sign up there. And each month I give away tips and guides, painting resources, sometimes some videos too. So check that out. So just to let you know, I'll be releasing a new watercolour video every week on a Wednesday. It's going to be Watercolour Wednesday. Next week is going to be number 2 in my Back to Basics series. This time we're going to be looking at mixing colours on the page versus mixing colours in the palette, so that's quite a good one to look out for. So if you subscribe and click the bell icon, you'll actually get a notification every time I upload a new video each week. I also hope to release several shorts each week too, so you can look out for those with quick tips and things, everything to do with watercolours, and these are all great for the complete beginner to set you on your way, build your confidence and get you going on your journey for watercolour painting. So I hope to see you next week, and take care.